Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this next edition of the Shelby Scholars Vodcast. We'd like to welcome our guest, Mr. Joe Espy, here today. My name is Samad Gilani, and I'm proud to be a member of the inaugural class of Shelby Scholars.
My name is Mara Inman, and I'm also very happy to be here today with Samad and Mr. Espy.
And I'm Joe Espy. I'm an attorney from Montgomery, Alabama.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Espy. We really appreciated your time today and all that your service has given to students and for students in the state of Alabama, and specifically on this campus. We wanted to talk a little bit today about a little bit more of your experiences with Senator Richard Shelby and what he's really meant to the University of Alabama and the system. So if you could, what would you feel that Senator Shelby's impact and what his meaning is to the University of Alabama system?
I met Richard Shelby in 1971 in the state senate. He'd been elected in 70, and I was working in the state senate. Richard Shelby, I got married when I was in law school. Richard Shelby got my wife a teaching job so that we could afford to get married. So he's been my friend since the 70s. I've been in campaigns with him. I've supported him throughout his career. What he's meant to the University of Alabama is just incredible, but not more so the university, but not just the university. He's done an incredible amount of help to Huntsville, to Birmingham. He's also helped Auburn, South Alabama. What he did for the docks down there is just incredible, what it's going to do for our state. I don't know what we would have done without Richard Shelby. He got not only an enormous amount of money for us as a senator, particularly in his later years, but also he came and participated. He came here and met students and met people and talked up Alabama. So he's been a great friend of this school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then similarly, talking about as someone who's worked closely with Senator Shelby for a long time, what specific leadership qualities have you seen in him that you think make him the leader that he is for the state?
I think he had an ability to adjust, and I don't mean that wrong. I don't mean the fact that he went from the Democratic Party to the Republican. Mm-hmm. I think he was able to look at the people he represented and to represent them and make whatever adjustments was needed to do that. I think he was a quiet leader. You know, today you see these loud leaders. That wasn't who Richard Shelby was. He was a quiet leader. He made sure he stayed back home with his base. He brought home money to the projects, and he was a leader in the Senate. I mean, he cast a big shadow, but he didn't have to scream and he didn't have to holler. He quietly worked the system and made friends, and I think that's a great quality he's got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Mr. Espy, you've always been a big advocate for students and getting involved and for students to be a part of advocacy in the state of Alabama. So what would you give some words to students like Mara and I to better serve the state of Alabama in this changing political landscape?
I think that somehow or another, the young people of this state, and that's why I care so much about students, has got to make a change from the good old boy days. And I don't mean this derogatory, but you take Alpha, who used to be the Alabama Farm Bureau. They're against any increases in property tax. Here recently, some local schools lost their property tax, even lost their renewal taxes. You can't operate without funds. Young people need to get involved and help it. Now, whether you for gaming or not for gaming, the people of Alabama ought to have the opportunity to vote. And I think if we had a lottery, I think we would have the funds to have good education. And I think the young people ought to look at, what are the issues? It's the only way to improve your life is education. That's the only way a person who's not rich, who's down the ladder, that's it. It's education. In Montgomery, Alabama, we have the worst education system you could imagine. If you're not in magnet school or you're not in a private school, you're not getting a good education. And as a result of that, we have a lot of crime. I think education is the key to success, and I think it's what young people ought to work on.
And then my question, I think, kind of switching up a little bit, is about your career and your career as a lawyer. So where do you get your personal fulfillment from in that job? And then kind of as a two-part question, what advice would you give to students like me who are interested in having a career as a lawyer about your path and everything you experienced to get to the point you're at now?
Okay. It's interesting. You go to law school and you don't know what you're interested in. You think you're interested in it. I've always thought that I would like to do trial work, because a lot of my good friends that like to do transactional work, real estate work, banking work, or whatever. In my career, I think what helped me as much as anything, out of law school, I clerked for a federal judge. It's not the same today as it was then. I got to go into the courtroom and watch great lawyers try cases. Today is not that much. In fact, I discouraged my boys from doing that. I think the thing that helped me, I worked with the district attorney's office for 3 years. I tried an enormous amount of state cases, and I learned how to try cases. Didn't make much money doing that. And I think, and I've often told young people, look beyond your nose. Look beyond your nose. Where did I want to go? Just because you make $20,000 for this job, you may be really learning something that's going to propel you out here to a really good job where you make some money. I've got an example of that, of a young person that I helped did that very thing. So I think, first of all, you got to decide what you're going to do. I think if you're going to do what I do, you ought to look at some kind of clerkship. And you definitely, one of my boys went to the district attorney's office. I think those are the things to do. You can't get it in law school, okay? And you don't get it in some of these places you go, they'll pay you a bunch of money to clerk in the summer, but you don't do anything. You need to go somewhere you really truly work. And that's one part of it, but I don't know that answered the first part.
Well, the other part of it was about the personal fulfillment that you get from your job.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about being a lawyer that you love?
Helping people, all walks of life. I think that's the biggest thing. I like people. I just like people, and getting the opportunity to be with people, and the opportunity to help people. You never know when they may do something for you. You don't do it for that, but you think about it. So I think that's probably it.
Absolutely.
Mr. Espy, you've had an outstanding tenure of service with the University of Alabama. What would be your fondest memory, whether that be during your time in undergrad, law school, or as a trustee?
Well, my fondest memory is all the students that I've met and student leaders and students that I've had an opportunity to meet through those 20 years. The first trustee meeting or education meeting I ever attended, this expert on trustees said that a university is like a wheel, and the center of it is the student, and the trustees, alumni, legislature, everybody else is spoke. And that's what I felt like we were, and that we need to be focused on what was good for the students. So my fulfillment and what I liked most was meeting the students. Now, one other thing I'll tell you that I did enjoy, I made the call on Saban in 2007 when we had to make the call for the $32 million. I was chairman of the board. Of course, Mal Moore brought Saban here, but the team was Mal Moore, Dr. Bob Witt, the chancellor, Malcolm Otero, and I was chairman of the board. And I was down in Florida with a flat tire and got a call from the chancellor and said, something good and something bad. Saban and them will talk to us, but you got to have at least $32 million. I thought, my Lord, that's just unbelievable. So we made that pool. A lot of people wouldn't have made that. So anyway, that was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing too, talking about students and your investment to students on campus and how obviously you've been willing to be here and talk with us today, which has been so amazing. I know you recently had an SGA scholarship named after you, so can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that meant a lot to me. Two things happened as I was going off the board. One, ODK gave me a Living Legend Award, and that meant an awful lot to me from those young people. And then when the SGA named that scholarship for people who need that money, that meant a lot to me. In fact, I have both of those things in prominent places in my office. So both of those, and both of them were surprised, and I'm very appreciative of both of them.
Mr. Espy, I think you'd be happy to hear that last night the SGA actually hosted an event, the third annual Battle of the Bands, which raised another additional $8,000 for the Joe Espy Needs-Based Scholarship.
Oh, good. Super.
That's
good.
That's awesome.
The SGA continues to serve that, and it's one of the things that helps students out so much in a time of need, and we appreciate you for doing that.
Oh, good. Well, that's terrific.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you for being here today.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Thank you so
much.
much.
I didn't talk too much.
No, not at all.
No, okay. Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
It was so much fun.
Good.
Absolutely.